Welcome students. Today we are going to start 7th chapter of history, and that is tribes, nomads and settled communities. As in previous chapter, you all had seen how kings were there and how development took place. In this chapter you all will get to know about tribes, nomads and how they settled in communities. So let's start our chapter. Over the centuries, important political, social, and economic developments had taken place, but social changes was not the same everywhere because different kinds of societies evolve differently. It is important to understand how and why this happened. In large parts of the subcontinent, society was already divided according to the rules of Varna. These rules as prescribed by the large kingdom. Now question arises, who were the tribes? However, other kinds of societies as well, many societies in the subcontinent did not follow the social rules and rituals prescribed by the Brahmins, nor were they divided into numerous unequal classes. Such societies are often called tribes. Members of each tribe were united by kinship bonds. Many tribes obtained their livelihood from agriculture. Others were hunter gatherers, or we can say herders. Some tribes were nomadic and moved from one place to another. A tribal group controlled land and pasture jointly and divided these amongst household according to its own rules. They usually lived in forest, hills, desert, and places difficult to reach. Sometimes they clashed with the more powerful caste based societies in various ways. The tribes retained their freedom and preserved their separate culture. Now, who were tribal people? As tribal people did not keep written records, but they preserved rich customs and oral traditions. These were passed down to each new generation. Present day historians have started using such oral traditions to write tribal histories. As you all know, all the members are united by kinship bonds. It means a kind of common control which bound all the tribes member together. So there were clans established, and these clans were from common ancestors. So they had a common ancestor, and from there you had the generation that swept in. So they were mainly nomadic and they controlled the land for pasture. Now, again, very powerful tribes, some of those are very major tribes. Now, we would understand the some of the major tribes across India. So, if we talk about the region of Punjab during 13th and 14th century, here beta, we had Khokar tribes, were there later Ghakkar tribes. The chief of Ghakkar tribes, Kamal Khan Ghakkar, was made ultimately the noble of Akbar's kingdom. Similarly, in the region of Multan and Sindh, here beta, nowadays in Pakistan, you had Langas, here it is, Langas and Argons tribes. Baluchis here beta. Baluchis were common in the area of Baluchistan in the northwest. Then in western Himalaya region we had Gaddi tribes. These Gaddi tribes lived in the mountain areas towards the bottom of the mountains, and they were pasture. They moved up for grazing the animals and came back. Next is northeast, where we had Ahoms and Nagas. Ahoms and Nagas we would talking about later briefly. Then in the region of Bihar, we had Bihar and Jharkhand. We had Chehros tribe, and these Chehro tribe leader was defeated by Raja Man Singh, who was the general of Akbar kingdom. Then you had the region of Odisha and Bengal, where we had Mundas and Santals. In the region of South India, let me show you beta. In the region of South India, here you all had Korgans, Vetras, Badgas, Marwals. Okay, and in western central India, mainly we had Bhils, Let me show you beta. Here it is. Bheels. Okay, and in western and central area you had bheels, and in the region of Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh you had gonds. Okay, now let me tell you one more thing. People were moving during this time. So there were two kinds of people they were moving. First was nomadic pastoralist and second was I-trained groups. So, now, firstly, we will understand nomadic pastoralist. Nomadic pastoralist moved over long distances with their animals. They lived on milk and other pastoral products. They also exchanged wool, ghee, etc. with the settled agriculturalist for grain, cloth, utensils, and other products. Now, second one was I trains. So here, these I trains were mainly the craft people, the entertainer who moved for their services from one region to another. Both the nomadic people, both of them visited at the same place every year. So that was the unique feature. Now, mendicants were who acted as vending merchants. Now, there was one common tribe that we had heard, that is Banjaras. Banjaras were the trader nomads. The most classic characteristics of Banjara were they traveled in groups. It means caravans, and those groups were known as tandas. What they used to do was they grab the product from somewhere which was cheaper and sold that at higher price, and the margin they could earn, that was their profit. Initially, they considered Rajputs to be superior, but slowly they found that Rajput evolved from Kshatriyas and they were not a kind of existing clan that was there. And since Rajput can do it same, Banjaras also could do it. So these Banjaras slowly tried to enter in the ruling party. Some of the Banjaras were part of Alauddin Khilji kingdom, where they used to transport grain to the city markets, transported food grains to army during military campings. As the economy and the needs of society grew, people with new skills were required. Smaller caste or jatis emerged within Varnas. For example, new caste appeared amongst the Brahmins. On the other hand, many tribes and social groups were taken into caste based society and given the status of jatis. Specialized artisans, smiths, carpenter, and masons were also recognized as separate jati by the Brahman. Jatis rather than Varna became the basis for organizing society. As we said, most of the jatis were depicted certain, we can say, kinds of work. For example, Rathkaras were the people who made the Rath or chariot, and this included the architecture, building coaches. This has been mentioned in Udiyakoran Udayar, which was lying in the Tiruchirappalli Taluka. Similarly, we talked about emergence of Rajputs. Here we are talking about emergence of Rajputs. They emerged from Hunas, Chandelas, Chalukyas. So this gained the idea of the tribal people to originate the power, and one of the effort was done by the Gonds. So when we talk about Gonds name came from Gondwana land. So they were the people who dominate the region of Gondwana land. They mainly practiced shifting cultivation. Let me explain you what is shifting cultivation. Let's say we are having 4 patches of land number 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, now what we are doing in this land, firstly we are growing crops in land 1. Okay, and then we move to land 2, and we burn this land 1. हमने land 1 को जला दिया. It becomes fallow, and then similarly we move to land 3, है ना. land 3 पे जाएंगे, then we will burn this land 2. Similarly, we will go to land 4 and we will burn land 3, है ना. So what we are doing, as we had as this land 1 is fallow at this time, so during this time land 1 is regaining its fertility. Okay, this is known as the shifting cultivation. And the large corn tribes was further divided into many smaller clans. Each clan had its own Raja or Rai. About the time that the power of the Delhi Sultans was declining, a few large Gond kingdoms were beginning to dominate the smaller Gond chiefs. The Akbarnama, a history of Akbar's region, mentions the Gond kingdom of Gharkatanga that had 70,000 villages. The administrative system of these kingdoms was becoming centralized. The kingdom was divided into ghars. Each ghar was controlled by a particular Gond clan. This was further divided into units of 84 villages called Chaurasi. It is very important, students. The Chaurasi was subdivided into Bharots, which were made up of 12 villages. Okay, now here we are having one small description of story of Aman Das. Aman Das was the Raja of Gharkatanga who assumed the title of Sangram Shah. Aman Das, he was the son of Dalpat and he married Princess Durgavati, the daughter of Salbhan, the Rajput king. Then we can say Dalpat, however, died early. Rani Durgavati was very capable and started ruling on behalf of her 5-year-old son, Bir Narayan. Under her, the kingdom became even more extensive. In 1565, the Mughal forces under Ashaf Khan attacked Gharkatanga. A strong resistance was put by Rani Durgavati. She was defeated and preferred to die rather than surrender. Okay, she was defeated. Beta, this sentence is very important, as उन्होंने क्या कहा कि मुझे जान देना मंजूर है लेकिन मैं सरेंडर नहीं करूँगी. Okay, she was defeated and preferred to die rather than surrender. Her son too died fighting soon after. This Gharkatanga was definitely a rich estate, as he trapping exports of wild elephants and Mughal captured precious stones, elephants, etc. from this dynasty. Later on, this was granted to Chandra Shah, who was uncle of Bir Narayan. After the fall of Gharkatanga, Gonds also survived for few more years. Finally, they became weaker and vanished off. Now let's see Ahoms. The Ahom migrated to the Brahmaputra valley from present-day Myanmar in the 13th century. They created a new state by suppressing the older political system of the Bhuyan's landlords. During the 16th century, they annexed the kingdom of the Chuttiyas 1523 and a Koch Hazo in 1581 and subjugated many other tribes. The Ahoms built a large state, and for this they used firearms as early as the 1530s. By the 1660s, they could even make high quality gunpowder and cannons. However, the Ahoms faced many invasions from the southwest and in 1662, the Mughal under Mir Jumla attacked the Ahom kingdom. The Ahom estate depends upon forced labor. To work for the state were called packs. Each village had to send a number of packs by rotation. People from heavily populated areas were shifted to less populated places. Ahom's clans were thus broken up by the first half of the 17th century and administrative became quite centralized. Almost all adult males served in the army during war. At adults, they were engaged in building dams, irrigation system and other public works. Ahom society was divided into clans or khels. There were very few castes of artisans, so artisan in Ahom areas came from the adjoining kingdom. okay, who often controlled several villages. The peasants was given land by his village community, and even the king could not take it away without the permission of the community. Originally, the Ahoms worshipped their own tribal gods. During the first half of the 17th century, however, the influence of Brahmanas increased. Temples and Brahmanas were granted land by the king. In the region of Sibsing, the time period of Sibsing was 1714 to 1744. Hinduism became the predominant region. Okay, a home society was very sophisticated. Poets and scholars were given land grants. Theatre was encouraged. Important works of Sanskrit were translated into the local language. Historical works known as Buranjis were also written first in the Ahom language and then in Assamese language. So now let's talk about the conclusion. What conclusion we are finding here? As it is considered social change took place in the subcontinent during the period. We have been examining Varna based society and tribal people constantly interacted with each other. This interaction caused both kinds of societies to adapt the change. There were many different tribes and they took up diverse livelihood over a period of time. Many of them merged with caste based society. Others, however, rejected both the caste system and orthodox Hinduism. Some tribes established extensive states with well organized system of administration. They thus became politically powerful. This brought them into conflict with larger and more complex kingdoms and empires. So the idea was Varna based system originated. The tribal people began to interact and even occupy the position of kings. Many of them merged with the caste based society that existed during that time, and these tribals merged with the caste based system. So, some of those rejected the caste system also and Hinduism. Some became political powerful. Okay, so this is how explanation of this chapter is has been done. Now let's talk about question and answers. So our first question is match the following. So let's start. Ghar, Chaurasi, Tanda, Karwan, Laborer, Pack, Clan, Khel, Sibsing, a home state, Durgavati, Ghar Katanga. Now second question is fill in the blanks. The new caste emerging within Varna were called Jatis. Buranjis were historical works written by the Ahoms. Third is the Akbarnama mentions the Ghar Katanga had 70,000 villages. Then fourth one is as tribal states became bigger and stronger, they gave land grants to poets and scholars. Now question number 3, true false. Now let's see. First one is tribal societies had rich oral tradition. So your answer is true. Second one is there were no tribal communities in the northwestern part of the subcontinent. Answer is false. The Chaurasi in Gond states contained several cities. Answer is false. Then the Bhils lived in the northeastern part of the subcontinent. Answer is false. Now let's come to question number 4. What kind of exchange took place between nomadic pastoralists and settled agriculture? So your answer is nomadic pastoralists moved over long distances with their animals. They lived on milk and other pastoral products. They exchanged wool, ghee, etc. with settled agriculturalists for grain, clothes, utensils and other products. Now let's move to question number 5. How was the administration of the Ahom state organized? So your answer is the administration of the Ahom state was centralized during the first half of the 17th century. The Ahom state depended upon the forced labor to work for the state and were called tax. Amongst all adult males served in the army during war and in other times, they were engaged in building dams, irrigation system and other public works. A home society was divided into clans or khels. were often controlled several villages. The peasants were given lands by the village community, and even the king could not take it away without the permission of the community. Now, let's move to question number 6, and that is, what changes took place in Varna based society? So, your answer is social changes took place in Varna based society were smaller caste or jati emerged within Varnas. Many tribes and social groups were taken into caste based society and given the status of jatis. Thirdly, we can say jatis became the basis for organizing society instead of Varna. Then, specialized artisans, smiths, carpenters, and masons were also recognized as separate jatis by the Brahmins. Now, let's move to question number 7. That is, how did tribal societies changed after being organized into a state? So, your answer is, after being organized into a state, tribal societies changed into the following ways. Within the support of the Brahmanas, many tribes became part of the caste system. Leading tribal families joined ruling classes, and a large majority joined the lower jatis of caste society. Then, many dominant tribes of Punjab, Sindh, and northwest frontier had adopted Islam also. Then we can say some became politically powerful and conflicted with larger and more complex kingdom and empires. Then our question number 8 is, were the Banjaras important for the economy? Yes. The answer is yes, the Banjaras were important for the economy. In fact, they were the most important trader nomads. They were used to transport grain to the city markets. They purchased grain where it was cheaply available and carried it to places where it was dearer. They usually carried grain on their bullocks. Most of the times they transported food grain for the Mughal army during military campings, and the rest of the time they were hired by big merchants and traded for them. Now, question number 9 is, in what ways the history of Gonds different from the that of the Ahoms? So your answer is, first we have to tell differences and then we have to tell similarities. So let's start with differences. So your first difference was Gonds lived in a vast forested region called Gondwana, while the Ahoms migrated to the Brahmaputra Valley, present day Myanmar. Gonds were completely defeated by Mughal Empire, while the Ahoms also got defeated, but their control over the region could not last long. Gonds practiced shifting cultivation, while Ahoms don't. Now, what are the similarities? Let's see. First one is, administration was centralized in both the cases. Secondly, in Ahoms as well as in Gonds, the societies were divided into clans or jatis. Thirdly, we can say both the tribes had influence of Brahmanas who received land grants from their kings. Now let's see our extra question. Describe administrative system of the Gonds. The administrative system of the Gonds was centralized and kingdom was divided into ghars. Each ghar was controlled by a particular Gond clan. This was further divided into units of 84 villages called चौरासी. 84 को हिंदी में क्या कहते हैं? चौरासी. That is why तो नेम भी चौरासी है. The चौरासी was subdivided into barods which were made up of 12 villages each. Now let's see home assignment. You have to find out about present day government policies towards tribal population. Beta, as I discussed in class, the reservation policy of the government for the ST, it means scheduled tribes, ensures them reserved seats in the field of education and government jobs. So you can write this. Okay, so this is how explanation of this chapter and discussion of question and answer of this chapter, everything has been done. Thank you. Have a nice day.